The unwanted summoning. Elena Ashford's hands trembled as the iron carriage rolled through gates that seemed to swallow light itself. The dark court. She had spent 22 years avoiding this place, this fate, this doom. Yet here she was, summoned by royal decree to become a potential bride for the most feared king in the realm. The carriage lurched to a stop, and Elena pressed her palm against the cool window. Outside, the palace rose like a nightmare carved from black stone. Towers twisted toward storm-gray skies, and windows glowed with an unnatural crimson light. This was the home of King Demon Corvus, the scarred king, the man who had crushed 3 rebellions before his 30th year and who, rumor whispered, had murdered his first 2 brides. Miss Ashford. The door opened, revealing a stern-faced woman in midnight velvet. I am Lady Morrigan, mistress of the royal household. You will follow me. Elena gathered her worn cloak around her shoulders and stepped down. She had dressed deliberately in her plainest gown, had rubbed ash into her golden hair to dull its shine, had practiced keeping her eyes downcast. She needed to look like nothing, like no one. She needed to fail this selection so badly that they would send her home before the week was out. Because Elena carried a secret that could destroy kingdoms. A curse that had already destroyed her family. The palace interior was a labyrinth of shadows and whispers. Elena followed Lady Morrigan through corridors lined with portraits of stern-faced kings and queens, all watching with painted eyes that seemed to follow her movement. Other young women, the other potential brides, moved through the halls in clusters. They wore silk and jewels, their laughter bright and brittle with ambition. Elena kept her distance. She was good at being invisible. She had practiced for 5 years. You will be presented to His Majesty at tonight's welcoming feast, Lady Morrigan said, stopping before a heavy wooden door. This is your chamber. Do not embarrass your family, girl. The Ashford name may be minor, but it still carries some weight. If only you knew, Elena thought bitterly. The Ashford name carried nothing anymore. Her parents were dead. Her brother was dead. Her entire household had been slaughtered in a single night of blood and shadows, and only Elena had survived, marked by the curse that had killed them all. The scarred king's demand. The great hall was a cathedral of darkness and flame. Torches burned in iron sconces, casting dancing shadows across walls hung with war banners. At the far end, elevated on a dais of black marble, sat the throne. And on the throne sat King Demon Corvus. Elena's breath caught despite herself. She had expected a monster. What she saw was something far more dangerous. A man. He was perhaps 35, with hair the color of midnight and eyes like winter storms. A brutal scar ran from his left temple down to his jaw, a white slash that should have made him ugly but instead made him unforgettable. He wore black from collar to boot, and power radiated from him like heat from forge fire. He was not moving, not speaking, but every person in the hall was oriented toward him like flowers to a deadly sun. 20 young women stood in a line before the dais, each more beautiful and richly dressed than the last. Elena had positioned herself at the very end, her ash-dulled hair hidden beneath her hood, her eyes fixed firmly on the floor. Ladies! The king's voice rolled through the hall, deep and commanding. You have been summoned because each of you represents an important family, an alliance, a potential future for this kingdom. I require a queen. One of you will fill that role. A ripple of excitement moved through the line. Elena felt sick. She had to fail. She had to make herself so completely unsuitable that he would dismiss her immediately. You will each approach, King Demon continued. State your name and your family's pledge. One by one, the women glided forward, each more graceful than the last. They spoke of wealth, of armies, of ancient bloodlines. The king listened to each with the same expression of mild, disinterested assessment. He accepted each pledge with a nod, dismissed each woman with a gesture. Then it was Elena's turn. She shuffled forward, keeping her shoulders hunched, her steps clumsy. She had practiced this, the walk of someone beaten down by life, someone not worthy of notice. Name, the king said, his voice flat. Elena Ashford, your majesty. She kept her voice barely above a whisper, added a tremor for effect. "Speak up, girl. This is a throne room, not a confessional." Elena flinched, making it look like fear rather than the calculated performance it was. "Elena Ashford, Your Majesty. My family pledges. That is, we have a small estate in the western provinces. Some farmland. We don't have much to offer." A few of the other women snickered. Perfect. She was establishing herself as the weakest candidate, the obvious reject. "Look at me." The command was quiet, but it struck Elena like a physical blow. She had not planned for this. She had planned to be dismissed immediately, forgotten. Slowly, reluctantly, she raised her eyes. King Demon Corvus was staring at her with an intensity that made her blood freeze. His storm-gray eyes seemed to pierce through her shabby disguise, through her careful act, through to the desperate truth beneath. For a moment, just a moment, his expression flickered with something she could not name. "Remove your hood," he said. "Your Majesty, I—" "Now." Her hands shook as she pushed back the hood. Her ash-dulled hair tumbled free, and even dimmed as it was, it caught the torchlight with hints of gold. The king stood. The entire hall fell silent. He descended the dais steps slowly, deliberately, and Elena's heart hammered against her ribs. This was wrong. This was all going wrong. He stopped directly in front of her, so close she could smell leather and steel and something darker, something wild. "You are hiding," he said softly, his voice pitched for her ears alone. "The question is why?" A plan born of desperation. Elena was not taken back to her simple chamber. Instead, she found herself in a richly appointed sitting room, facing Lady Morrigan's cold disapproval. "The king has requested your presence at tomorrow's private audience," the older woman said. "This is unusual. This is not how the selection typically proceeds." "I didn't ask for his attention," Elena said, and it was the truth. "I don't want to be here." "Then you should have declined the summons." "You can't decline a royal summons." Lady Morrigan's thin lips pressed together. "No." "I suppose you cannot." She studied Elena with shrewd eyes. "You're not what you appear to be, are you, girl?" Elena's pulse spiked. "I don't know what you mean. I have served this palace for 40 years. I know when someone is performing." Lady Morrigan moved closer, her voice dropping. "But know this, King Demon is no fool. Whatever game you are playing, he has already seen through it. The only question is whether he will be amused or angered." After the woman left, Elena paced her room like a caged animal. She had to leave. She had to run. But the palace was a fortress, and she had no allies, no resources. She was trapped. She pressed her hand against the cold stone wall and closed her eyes. The curse inside her stirred. A dark thing coiled in her blood like a sleeping serpent. It had been quiet for months now, dormant. But being here, in this place of concentrated power, was waking it up. The curse had a name, whispered by the thing that had killed her family. The Devourer's Mark. It was a parasite of dark magic that fed on the life force of those around her. Her parents had kept it suppressed with rare herbs and ancient spells, had hidden her away in their remote estate. But someone had discovered their secret. Someone had sent assassins. And when Elena's terror had spiked, when she had been cornered in her family's burning manor, the curse had erupted. She had woken 3 days later in the ruins, surrounded by bodies drained of life. Her family, her servants, everyone she loved, consumed by the darkness inside her. She had run. She had hidden. She had learned to keep the curse locked down through sheer force of will and self-imposed isolation. And she had sworn never to let herself care for anyone again. Never to let anyone close enough to become the curse's next meal. The first crack in the mask. The next morning, Elena was escorted to a private study. It was a room of books and weapons, of maps and ancient artifacts. King Demon stood by the window, silhouetted against gray morning light. "Sit," he said without turning. Elena remained standing. "Your Majesty, if this is about yesterday, I apologize for any." I said sit. The command had weight behind it, a power that made her body move before her mind could protest. She found herself in a leather chair, her hands gripping the armrests. Demon turned. In the daylight, his scar was even more prominent, a permanent reminder of violence survived. But his eyes were what held her. They were intelligent, calculating, and surprisingly sad. "You came here to fail," he said. It was not a question. Elena's throat went dry. "I came because I was summoned." "Don't lie to me, Elena Ashford. Or should I say, Elena Ashford of the Dead House." He moved to his desk, lifted a piece of parchment. "Your family estate burned 5 years ago. Your parents, Duke Robert and Duchess Marianne, died in the fire. Your brother, Thomas, died defending them. You disappeared. The official report called it a rogue attack." Elena's hands clenched. "If you know all this, then you know I have nothing to offer you. No wealth, no power, no alliance. Send me home." "There is no home to send you to." Demon set down the parchment, his expression unreadable. "Which brings me to my question. Why did a woman with nothing accept a royal summons that could only bring her into dangerous scrutiny? Why would you risk coming here?" "I had no choice. Everyone has a choice. You could have run. You could have hidden. But you came." He leaned back against his desk, arms crossed. "So either you are seeking something here, or you are running from something worse than me."
Elena stood abruptly.
"Your Majesty, I respectfully request to be released from consideration as a potential bride. I am unsuitable in every way. Choose one of the other ladies. Any of them would serve you better than I." "Sit down." "I would prefer to."
"Sit
down." His voice cracked like a whip, and Elena found herself sinking back into the chair. There was power in his command, real power, and it made the curse inside her stir uncomfortably. Demon's eyes narrowed. "Interesting. You felt that." "Felt what?" "My compulsion. Most people don't recognize it for what it is. They simply obey and think it their own choice." He tilted his head. "But you know magic when you touch it, don't you, Elena?" Her heart was racing now. "I don't know what you mean." "I think you do." He moved closer, and Elena fought the urge to recoil. "I think you know exactly what I mean, because you carry magic yourself. Dark magic. The kind that leaves a scent." "You're mistaken." "Am I? Then why does every candle in this room gutter when your fear spikes? Why do the shadows lean toward you like faithful dogs?" He crouched before her chair, bringing his eyes level with hers. "What are you hiding, Elena Ashford?" Whispers of the past. Elena's control shattered. She surged to her feet, forcing the king to step back, and the words spilled out of her like poison from a wound. "You want to know what I'm hiding? Fine. I'm hiding the thing that killed my family. I'm hiding the curse that turns me into a weapon I can't control. I'm hiding the fact that everyone I've ever loved is dead because of me." Her voice broke. "I came here because the summons was public. If I'd refused, it would have drawn attention. Questions. Investigations. And I cannot afford to be investigated, Your Majesty, because if the truth comes out, if people learn what I am, they will hunt me down and kill me. Or worse, they will try to use me." The room fell silent. Elena was breathing hard, her hands shaking, the curse writhing inside her like a living thing responding to her emotional storm. Demon studied her for a long moment. Then he did something completely unexpected. He laughed. It was a low, dark sound, but genuine. "Finally," he said, "the truth. Or at least part of it. This isn't funny. No, it's not. But it's real. And I have been drowning in lies and performances for days." He moved back to his desk, poured 2 glasses of dark amber liquid, and held one out to her. "Drink. You look like you need it." Elena took the glass with trembling hands and swallowed. The liquor burned, but it steadied her. "Are you going to have me arrested? Executed? For what?" "Being cursed." Demon took a sip from his own glass. "If I executed everyone in this palace carrying dark magic, I would have to start with myself."
Elena blinked.
"What?" "Sit down, Elena. Let me tell you a story." And despite everything, despite her fear and her fury, Elena found herself sinking back into the chair, because the scarred king's expression had shifted into something raw and honest, and she recognized the look of someone carrying their own unbearable secret. 20 years ago, Demon began, I was not a king. I was a prince, third in line for the throne, which meant I was free to be a soldier, a warrior. I was good at it. Some said I was the best swordsman in the kingdom. He touched the scar on his face absently. Then came the war with the northern clans. We were losing, badly. Our armies were being slaughtered by their blood mages. He paused, swirled the liquor in his glass. I made a choice. I sought out a forbidden source of power, an ancient ritual that would give me the strength to turn the tide of the war. The ritual worked. I became nearly unstoppable in battle. I won the war. I saved thousands of lives. But the power came with a price. What price?
Elena whispered.
Demon met her eyes. I became the thing I fought against. The ritual bound a shadow demon to my soul. It gives me strength, speed, compulsion, power beyond mortal limits. But it also hungers. It wants blood, wants death, wants destruction. Every day is a battle to keep it leashed. Elena's breath caught. That's why they call you the Scarred King. Not just because of the scar on your face.
No.
Because my soul is scarred. Permanently. He set down his glass. My brothers died in suspicious accidents within a year of my return. The court whispered that I murdered them to take the throne. They were half right. I didn't kill them with my own hands, but the demon inside me influenced events, created circumstances. It wanted power, and it made me king whether I wished it or not. Why are you telling me this? Because you asked me if I was going to have you executed for being cursed. And I'm telling you that a cursed king can hardly condemn a cursed woman. He leaned forward. You came here to fail, to be dismissed. But what if I told you that you're exactly what I need? That's insane. I'm a danger to everyone around me. So am I. Which is why my first two brides are dead. The words were flat, brutal. They were good women, innocent. They couldn't handle being close to me, to the darkness I carry. The demon's power leaked into them, slowly poisoning them until their hearts simply stopped. Elena felt tears prick her eyes. Then why seek another bride at all? Why not rule alone? Because the council demands it. Because the kingdom needs an heir. Because if I die without a clear successor, the realm will tear itself apart in civil war. He stood, moved to the window. I need someone who can survive me, Elena. Someone who carries their own darkness and knows how to control it. Someone who won't shatter under the weight of the crown. The impossible choice. You're asking me to marry you, Elena said slowly. To become queen. I'm offering you a choice, Demon corrected. You can leave here, return to whatever half-life you've been living, always running, always hiding. Or you can stay, become my queen. Have the protection of the crown, the resources of the kingdom. Help me find a way to control these curses that control us. You can't control a curse. Believe me, I've tried. Alone, perhaps not. But together. He turned to face her.
Magic recognizes magic, Elena.
You felt my compulsion. I can feel your curse from across the room. What if the answer isn't suppression? What if it's balance? Elena wanted to laugh at the absurdity of it. She wanted to run from the room. But she found herself considering his words. For 5 years she had been alone, isolated, terrified of her own shadow. And in those 5 years, the curse had only grown stronger, harder to contain. What if we make it worse? She asked quietly. What if bringing our curses together doesn't balance them but amplifies them? Then we will deal with it. Together. He extended his hand. I'm not offering you a fairy tale, Elena. I'm offering you an alliance. A partnership between two people who understand darkness. Elena stared at his outstretched hand. This was madness. This was the opposite of everything she had planned. But it was also the first honest offer she had received in 5 years. The first time someone had looked at her curse and not flinched away. She thought of her mother's last words, gasped through smoke and flame. Live, Elena. Promise me you'll live, not just survive. Slowly, she reached out and placed her hand in his. His palm was warm, calloused from sword work, and the moment their skin touched, she felt it. A spark of connection, dark calling to dark, shadow recognizing shadow. I'm not promising you love, she said. I don't even know you. I don't want love. Love is a liability. I want partnership, honesty, strength. His fingers closed around hers. Can you give me that? I can try. Then we have an agreement. The king's private interrogation. But Elena pulled her hand back. Wait, if we're going to be partners, if we're going to do this, then I need the truth. All of it. Demon's expression flickered with something like approval. Ask. Your first two brides. You said they died because of your curse. But you're telling me now it was the demon that killed them. The demon's power, yes. It leaked into them through proximity, through the marriage bond. Their bodies couldn't handle the dark magic. But you're hoping I can because I already carry darkness. Elena's mind was racing. So I'm not really a bride. I'm an experiment. You're a solution, Demon corrected. And yes, there's risk. I won't lie about that. But you're at risk anyway, Elena. That curse of yours, the devourer's mark, it's growing stronger. I can feel it. How long do you think you can keep it contained alone? I've managed for 5 years. Barely. And it cost you everything. He moved closer again. You want truth? Here it is. I need you. The kingdom needs stability, and I can't provide that while fighting my demon every moment of every day. But more than that, I think you need me. Because isolation isn't a solution. It's a slow death. Elena felt the words strike something deep and true inside her. She had been dying slowly, hadn't she? Cutting herself off from all human connection. Living in fear, waiting for the curse to finally consume her completely. If I agree to this, she said carefully, then I have conditions. Name them. First, no lies. If we're partners, we tell each other the truth, even when it's ugly. Agreed. Second, I want access to the royal archives. All texts on curses, demons, dark magic. If we're going to find a way to control these things, I need knowledge. You'll have full access. Third, Elena took a deep breath. If I become a danger to innocence, if the curse breaks free and I start killing people like I killed my family, you have to stop me. By any means necessary. Demon's expression went hard. That's asking me to keep your kingdom safe. That's your first duty as king, isn't it? She met his eyes steadily. Promise me. If I become a monster, you will end me. The silence stretched between them, heavy and charged. Finally, Demon nodded once. I promise. On my crown and my honor. If you become a threat, I will stop you. He paused. But I want the same promise from you. If the demon takes control, if I become the monster everyone fears, you will find a way to end me. Elena's throat tightened. It was a grim pact, a promise of mutual destruction if necessary. But it was also honest in a way she had never experienced before. I promise, she whispered. Then we have more than an agreement, Demon said. We have a blood oath. He pulled a dagger from his belt, drew it across his palm without hesitation. Blood welled, dark and red. Elena took the dagger with shaking hands. The curse inside her stirred eagerly at the scent of blood, but she forced it down. This was her choice, her decision. She drew the blade across her own palm, felt the sharp sting of pain. Demon clasped her bleeding hand in his. Their blood mingled, and Elena felt power surge between them like lightning. For a moment, just a moment, she saw inside him. Saw the demon coiled around his soul like chains, saw the constant battle he fought, saw the exhaustion of years of fighting alone. And she knew he was seeing inside her too, seeing the hungry darkness of her curse, seeing the guilt and grief that fed it. Then the vision faded, and they were just two people standing in a study, bleeding and bound by forces neither of them fully understood. The council will want a formal ceremony within the week, Demon said, releasing her hand. That gives us 7 days to prepare, to learn each other's limits, to figure out if this insane plan has any chance of working. And if it doesn't? His smile was sharp and humorless. Then we'll die spectacularly, and the kingdom will have a tragic tale to tell for generations. Despite everything, Elena found herself almost smiling back. You have a dark sense of humor, Your Majesty. Call me Demon. If we're going to be married, we should at least use each other's names. He wrapped a cloth around his bleeding palm. There's one more thing you should know. Of course there is. The council. They're not going to accept this easily. Several of them have already chosen their preferred candidate. His expression darkened. Chancellor Voss in particular has been pushing for a match with Lady Serafina from the eastern provinces. Her family controls significant military forces. So there are politics involved. Everything is politics in court. And you, Elena Ashford, with no family, no wealth, no armies, are going to be seen as a threat to several powerful plans. He met her eyes. There will be assassination attempts, plots, schemes to discredit you or remove you before the wedding. Are you prepared for that? Elena thought of the fire that had taken her family, thought of 5 years of running and hiding, thought of the curse inside her that made her a weapon whether she wanted to be or not. Let them try, she said quietly.
Ives survived verse.
Demon's smile turned genuine for the first time. I think you might actually make a good queen, Elena Ashford. I think you might be completely insane, Demon Corvus. That too. He moved toward the door. I'll have Lady Morrigan prepare proper chambers for you. As my chosen bride, you'll be moved to the West Wing, near my own rooms. We'll begin training tomorrow. Training. In combat. In court politics. In controlling our curses before they control us. He paused at the door. Welcome to the Dark Court, future queen. Try not to die in your sleep. And with that cheerful thought, he left Elena alone in the study, her hands still bleeding, her heart racing, and her entire life turned upside down. She looked down at her palm, at the blood slowly seeping through the cloth she'd wrapped around it. 7 days until the wedding. 7 days to learn if partnership with darkness could create light, or if she had just sealed both their dooms. Outside the window, storm clouds gathered over the dark court, and Elena couldn't tell if they were an omen or just weather. Either way, she was committed now. For better or worse, she was going to become the Scarred King's queen. And somewhere in the shadows of her soul, the Devourer's mark stirred and smiled. The first night's terror. Elena's new chambers in the West Wing were luxurious beyond anything she had ever known. Silk curtains the color of midnight framed tall windows. A 4-poster bed dominated the room, draped in velvet. But luxury meant nothing when you couldn't sleep. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling the curse writhe inside her like a restless beast. The blood oath with Demon had changed something. The Devourer's mark felt more active, more aware. It was as if making contact with another source of dark magic had woken it from a long slumber. Around 3 in the morning, Elena gave up on sleep. She pulled on a robe and moved to the balcony. The dark court sprawled below her, a maze of towers and courtyards shrouded in mist. Somewhere in this fortress, Demon was likely awake too, fighting his own demons. Can't sleep either?
Elena spun.
Demon stood in the doorway connecting their chambers. She hadn't even noticed there was a connecting door. He was dressed in loose black trousers and nothing else, his scarred chest bare. In the moonlight, she could see more scars, a map of violence across his skin. You should have told me our rooms were connected, Elena said, pulling her robe tighter. Would it have mattered? He moved onto the balcony beside her. We're going to be married in 6 days. Privacy is about to become a distant memory. Still, a warning would have been nice. They stood in silence for a moment. The air between them hummed with the strange connection forged by their blood oath. Elena could feel his presence like a warmth against her skin, could sense the demon inside him pacing and prowling. Does it ever stop? She asked quietly. The hunger.
No.
Demon's voice was rough. You learn to feed it in controlled ways. Battle. Training. Sometimes. He trailed off. Sometimes what? Sometimes you let it loose. In private. Where it can't hurt innocents. He glanced at her. I have a room. Deep in the palace dungeons. Reinforced walls. No windows. When the demon gets too strong, when I can't hold it anymore, I go there and let it tear the room apart. Elena's throat tightened. How often? Once a month. Sometimes twice. He looked out over the dark kingdom. What about you? How do you manage the devourer's mark? I don't eat, Elena said simply. Not much, anyway. The curse feeds on life force, but it can feed on my own if I don't give it anything else. So I starve myself just enough that it stays dormant. Demon turned to face her fully, his expression hardening. That's not management, Elena. That's slow suicide. It keeps people safe. It keeps you weak. He reached out, caught her chin, forced her to meet his eyes. That ends now. You're going to be queen. You need strength. We'll find another way. There is no other way. Then we'll create one. His grip gentled but didn't release. 6 days, Elena. We have 6 days to figure out how to survive each other. Starting tomorrow, we train together. We learn each other's limits. We find the balance. Elena wanted to argue, but the determination in his eyes stopped her. This man had fought a demon for 20 years and was still standing. If anyone could understand her battle, it was him. Fine, she whispered. We try it your way. Good. He released her chin, but his hand trailed down to rest briefly over her heart. Sleep. Tomorrow is going to be brutal. He disappeared back into his chambers, leaving Elena alone with her racing pulse and the disturbing realization that his touch had calmed the curse inside her. If only for a moment. The council's challenge. Morning came too quickly. Elena was woken by Lady Morrigan and a team of servants who descended on her like an army. They dressed her in a gown of deep emerald green, styled her hair into an elaborate arrangement, and painted her face with subtle cosmetics that made her look like someone entirely different. The council meets in an hour, Lady Morrigan said crisply. King Demon will formally announce your betrothal. You will stand beside him and say nothing unless directly addressed. Do you understand? Yes. Good. Because half the council wants you gone, and they will be looking for any excuse to challenge the king's choice. The council chamber was a circular room dominated by a massive round table. 12 seats, 12 of the most powerful lords and ladies in the kingdom. Elena recognized a few faces from the history books she had studied. Lord Blackwood, commander of the northern armies. Lady Ashenhurst, head of the merchant guilds. And at the head of the table, directly opposite the king's seat, sat Chancellor Voss. He was a thin man with silver hair and eyes like chips of ice. He watched Elena enter with an expression of polite contempt. Demon was already seated, dressed in full royal regalia. Black and silver, the crown of twisted iron resting on his dark hair. He looked every inch the dangerous king, and when his eyes found Elena, they warmed fractionally. Counselors, Demon began, his voice carrying authority. I have made my choice. Lady Elena Ashford will be my queen. The wedding will take place in 6 days. Silence. Then Chancellor Voss cleared his throat delicately. Your Majesty, with all due respect, this is irregular. Lady Elena was not among the candidates we approved. I don't recall asking for your approval, Chancellor. Of course not, sire. But the council does have a responsibility to ensure that any royal marriage serves the kingdom's interests. Voss's smile was sharp. Lady Elena's family is extinct. She brings no wealth, no alliances, no military support. In what way does this marriage benefit the realm? Elena felt the eyes of every council member fix on her. This was the test. This was where she either proved herself worthy or was torn apart. Chancellor Voss raises valid concerns, Demon said calmly. Lady Elena, perhaps you would like to address them? He was giving her the floor, throwing her into the fire to see if she would burn. Elena took a breath and stepped forward. Chancellor Voss is correct, she said, keeping her voice steady. I bring no armies, no gold, no political alliances. What I bring is something this kingdom needs far more. The truth. Voss's eyes narrowed. The truth. Yes, the truth about what it means to survive when everything is taken from you. The truth about resilience. The truth about fighting battles no one else can see. She met his gaze directly. You want a queen who understands politics and warfare? This kingdom has plenty of noble daughters who could fill that role. But His Majesty didn't choose me for my connections. He chose me for my strength. Strength? Lady Ashenhurst spoke up, her voice skeptical. Forgive me, child, but you look like a strong wind would blow you over. Looks deceive, my lady. Elena allowed a small, dangerous smile. I survived a massacre that killed my entire family. I survived 5 years alone with nothing but my wits and will. I am still standing when by all rights I should be dead. That is strength. Lord Blackwood, the old warrior, leaned forward with interest. The Ashford massacre. That was 5 years ago. Rogues, the report said. The report was incomplete. Demon interjected smoothly. The attack was coordinated, planned. Someone wanted the Ashford line eliminated. This caused a ripple of murmurs around the table. Chancellor Voss's expression remained neutral, but Elena saw his knuckles whiten as he gripped the table edge. If that's true, Voss said carefully, then perhaps Lady Elena is a liability. Perhaps whoever wanted her family dead will come after her again. Will come after the crown. Let them try, Demon said, his voice dropping to a growl. Let them come. They will learn what it means to threaten what belongs to the king.